Dante562, what's going on, guys? You know, it amazes me sometimes the hypocrisy, the double standards, and the racial double standards that still exist in the sport of boxing. I mean, it's 2013, and this stuff has been going on since day one. You would think by now it wouldn't be something that we are still dealing with today, right? You look at Nonito Donaire, you look at Manny Pacquiao, you look at Floyd Mayweather, and the double standards are just ridiculous. To me, it's gotten to the point recently where they're making it so obvious that even the average Pacquiao fan or Nonito Donaire fan, they could even see it clearly. Now, if they want to admit it or not, that's a whole different, thing. But they're making it way obvious. They're making it way too obvious today. Let's take Donaire, for example. Now, Donaire, I praise Donaire for taking random drug tests. I praise him for wanting to do a year-round drug test, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with him doing that. But why is it he's getting the type of praise that Floyd Mayweather never got? Ever since Floyd Mayweather brought up random drug testing, there have been about 10 fighters that have been busted in random drug testing all around the world. About 10 fighters. About 4 fighters that we all know that are big name fighters. But why is it no HBO commentators, no big time boxing websites, no one has really praised Floyd Mayweather for trying to clean up the sport that all started with him doing a negotiation, a 50-50 negotiation about 3 years ago with Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao, as you guys know, if you follow the sport, Manny Pacquiao turned down a 50-50 split because he did not want to take a random style drug test, right? Now all of a sudden, Manny Pacquiao gets knocked out by Marquez, and now Bob Arum and Manny Pacquiao talking about we're not going to fight him unless he is subject to random drug testing. That is the true definition of hypocrisy. Okay? The true definition of hypocrisy. I mean, whatever happened to all that crazy shit they were saying about Floyd Mayweather? Talking about Floyd Mayweather, he's not the sport. He's not the whole sport. Who does Floyd Mayweather think he is to dictate the terms and try to come up with his own rules and regulations and all of this stuff? He is not the sport of boxing. He's just one fighter, et cetera, et cetera. All of this ridiculous bullshit, right? He's just scared. He doesn't want to fight. And all these other dumb excuses that all the fans would follow from that situation. So now what are you guys going to say? Now Manny Pacquiao is doing the exact same thing that Floyd Mayweather was doing 3 years ago. Demanding random drug testing. Helping this sport. Trying to clean up the sport. A major contribution to the sport of boxing. Instead of giving credit to Floyd Mayweather, they would rather give that credit to someone like Nonito Donaire and consider him somewhat of the pioneer of, Olympic style random drug testing in the sport of boxing, right? Then they want to call him Fighter of the Year. Donaire was crowned Fighter of the Year for desperation reasons. What does that mean? What that means is when Manny Pacquiao got knocked out, the media were desperately trying to find someone who could replace their favorite fighter. Right? It's now clear that they no longer have Manny Pacquiao. I mean, don't get me wrong. Manny may come back and he may beat Marquez. Who knows? But for the time being, it is clear that Manny Pacquiao is no longer the best fighter in the world. Not even top 3 the best fighter in the world. So what do? They find this as a perfect time to crown Donaire as Fighter of the Year. It's perfect timing. They just lost their favorite fighter. What's the closest thing to Manny Pacquiao? It's Nonito Donaire. Just like the closest thing to Floyd Mayweather is Adrian Broner, right? Donaire is the closest thing to Manny Pacquiao, right? This is the reason why they have him as Fighter of the Year. Not to mention as well, I was reading one article and they were talking about how last year he was so close to becoming Fighter of the Year, but they couldn't give it to him because Andre Ward, he deserved it way more than Donaire did, right? It would have been even more ridiculous if they would have given it to him last year. But they wanted to give it to him last year. So, to me, I basically believe that they felt, even though they knew he didn't deserve to be Fighter of the Year, Donaire, they felt this is probably the closest we will come to crowning him as Fighter of the Year. So let's go ahead and give it to him. See, the media, the majority of the media who love Donaire, who love Pacquiao, they want him to succeed, obviously. There's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, even they are trying to protect him. HBO, a lot of these boxing writers, they like him. And all of them are scared to death that if he gets in a ring and fights Rigo, he may lose. He may get knocked out. Hell, I remember when I was watching Rigo against Tion Kennedy. After about the second, third knockdown, Jim Lampley had the audacity to say, yeah, I sure would like to see Rigo possibly go up against Gamboa or Gary Russell. I'm like, Gamboa or Gary Russell? This man watched boxing just like I do. Now this man, he knows damn well Gamboa fights at 130 or at the time 126, 130. Gary Russell fights at 126. But notice, Jim Lampley, he made sure he did not mention Donaire's name. He made sure he mentioned other fighters, even if they were in other divisions. But he didn't want to bring up Donaire's name. And what was funny about it is I think it was either Max Kellerman or Emmanuel Stewart that reminded Jim that they don't even fight in the same division. That's when Jim Lampley said, oh yeah, that's right. Well, I guess maybe he'll fight Donaire sometimes. Or sometime in the future. He didn't want to say that. But he got in a position where he had to be honest. They are protecting him. They are protecting Donaire. Because they are in fear of another Manny Pacquiao upset. They don't want that on their heart. And the majority of these same people who are voting for him, that's another reason why they voted for him. Because they're trying to encourage Donaire. Donaire, you don't have to fight Rigo. Matter of fact, please don't fight him. Fight easier fighters like Mares, somebody who's easy to hit, somebody who's dumb, and they're going to run into punches all day. Fight somebody like Mares. Which I have no problem with him fighting Mares. It would be a great fight. Mares' style is tailor-made for Donaire, but it would be a great fight. Okay? But the point I'm making is, just like if you listen to the people on YouTube, the Manny Pacquiao and the Donaire supporters, they're giving you a zillion excuses why Donaire should not fight Rigondo, right? I mean, I get the comments all the time on my videos. But see, Donaire is making it harder and harder for his fans to defend him. Because the comments that Donaire makes, it completely contradicts the comments that the fans make to defend Donaire, right? For example, you have a lot of fans saying, oh, he doesn't have to fight Rigo. Rigo is weak. He has a fucking little kid chin, and he's small as hell. He's easy to beat. He's weak and this and blah blah this and blah blah that. He doesn't need to fight him. All these excuses they come up with, right? But what did I just read today on a boxing site? Well, apparently I just read that Donaire says if I fight Rigo, he would have to take a random style drug test. Really? Really? Now understand something, guys. This is coming from the same person who said about 2-3 weeks ago when they were praising Donaire, for his contributions to cleaning the sport up. This is what Donaire said, and I quote. He said, I wanted to do my part to clean up the sport. One thing about me is I'm always going to subject myself to random drug testing. But, and I quote, this is what he said, but I'm not going to ask my opponent to do it. If my opponent doesn't want to do it, he doesn't have to do it. And see, to me, that was kind of like a hidden dig at Floyd Mayweather. Because he's trying to say, yeah, I'm like Floyd Mayweather. I agree with random drug testing. But unlike Floyd Mayweather, I'm not going to make my opponent take the test himself. But what is Donaire saying today that contradicts that completely? He says the complete fucking opposite. I'll fight Rigo, but he has to take a test. And don't get me wrong, guys. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with him having Rigo take the test. But only thing that's wrong is the fact that now he's contradicting himself. You can't say one day, my opponents don't have to take the test. Next minute, you're saying, oh, but him in particular, he has to take the test. Attention, Donaire fans. What happened to Rigo being weak? What happened to him being a little ass midget who would get knocked out easy? Obviously, your boy Donaire, he thinks nothing like you guys do. Because Donaire, the fact that Rigo is the only guy that he wants to take a test. And remember, Rigo's situation is nothing like Manny Pacquiao's. Because see, Rigo didn't jump up in 6, 7, 8 divisions getting stronger and stronger. Rigo's been fighting at 122 since he turned pro. Okay? So we know that's not the reason. Donaire wants him to take a test. Why does Donaire want him to take a test? But he didn't want Navarez to take a test. He didn't want Matabula. He didn't want Nishioka, Arce. He didn't want any of these guys to take a test, but he wants him to take a test. Right? Now understand this as well. Now there's been talk. There's been talk that Rigo. There's been talk that Rigo, he's working with the same conditioner. The same conditioning coach that Marquez is working with, right? So yeah, that's something to obviously make you raise your eyebrows. But yet at the same time, Arce worked with that guy too. Arce worked with the same conditioning coach. But Donaire didn't ask him to take the test. How is this possible? Why? Why is he asking Rigo in particular to do it? Because because Donaire feels that this man, he has tremendous power. And he's completely accurate. And and every blow he throws, he can knock you out with it. He can knock you out with every blow that he throws. Rigo can. How many fighters do you know today that knock people out with a straight left hand to the body? I mean, you seldomly see shit like that in the sport of boxing today, right? Because you traditionally see hooks to the liver, hooks to the body. That's what usually drops people. But a straight to the body, to the solar plexus. Donaire is not stupid, guys. Donaire is not stupid. I've said this on plenty of videos. See, Donaire, unlike Manny Pacquiao, Donaire, he had an amateur career out here in the States. So Donaire, he got to fight international. He got to fight international opponents. He got to see international amateur fighters. And if you guys know anything about boxing, then you know that the Cuban amateurs are the best in the game. They are the best when it comes to the amateurs. If you guys don't know, Rigo, he destroyed Mares in the amateurs. Destroyed him. That's why you never hear Mares bringing up Rigo's name. That boy Mares, no. Donaire wants no part of Rigo. He wants no part of him. The fight is probably still going to happen eventually because there's so much pressure on Donaire to take this fight. It's probably going to happen eventually. But the point that I'm making is Donaire doesn't want the fight. Look at every single time when Donaire says, first he made 101 excuses why he didn't want to fight Rigo. That all contradicted themselves. Right? Now, because so much pressure has been put on him, now he's finally saying, yeah, I'll fight Mares, Rigondeaux, or anyone. That's what he's saying now, right? But then right after that, in this article I just read, right after he says that, he says, but I want Mares. Of course you want Mares, Donaire. Of course you want Mares. Because Mares is a little miniature Margarito / Victor Ortiz. He's an aggressive, dumb fighter that you can hit all night. He's not a smart fighter. He is a good fighter, though. Mares is a good fighter. He's just not on the level of a Donaire or a Rigo. Does Mares have a chance of beating Donaire? Yes, he does. But if you were Donaire and you really knew about boxing and you knew that one of these fighters had a better chance of beating you, who would you choose to fight? You would obviously choose the fighter who you have a better chance of winning. That's only common sense, right? If you don't have complete confidence in yourself, you would choose the guy who you know you can beat. Did you see the fucking Arce fight? You see Arce looking like a flyweight, and fucking Donaire looking like a goddamn featherweight? Did you see the size difference? And you wonder why Donaire wanted to fight this guy? Come on, it's obvious, ain't it? And to add insult to injury, when Arce was doing well and he was on a winning streak, and Arce knocked out Rafael Vasquez, you would have thought that would have been the perfect time for Donaire to fight him. But who did he fight instead? He fights the guy that Arce knocks out. And then he fights Arce 2-3 years later. A couple losses later, that's when he fights Arce. I know the Donaire fans, you guys gonna talk about this dude is just a Donaire hater, this and that. But ask yourself. You ask yourself, what did I say that didn't make sense? Every single thing I said made sense. Okay? I'm going to tell you what a hater is, because they don't know what a hater is. A hater is when someone does every single thing that they're supposed to do, and then someone leaves a comment and says, oh, he's just a little gay bitch. Fuck this little bitch. And that's the only comment. They don't break it down to you. You see, everything that I say, I completely break down. Shit is all so hypocritical, man. It's just so damn hypocritical. You know, I really used to respect Donaire a lot. I really used to like him a lot. You know, when I was rooting for him when he knocked out Darchinian, I was rooting for him when he knocked out Fernando Montiel. I lost respect for him when he started to duck Rigo. And it's not only just ducking, but it's how he was ducking. The stupid excuses he was using is what was irritating me more than anything. He's so sneaky and conniving with the way he ducks. Like, I don't know if you guys remember, but I remember when Rigo first started calling out Donaire. Donaire had the nerve to say, "Oh, I'd rather fight Gamboa," right? So he really threw a little smoke screen towards everybody that made people, that's obviously a way for him to cover up the fact that he's ducking Rigo. Oh, wait a minute. If he's willing to fight Gamboa, he can't possibly be afraid of Rigo, right? But that shit was a smoke screen, and I'll tell you why. Donaire said that shit right when he found out that Gamboa was in negotiations to fight his stablemate, fucking Brandon Rios. Gamboa was going to move all the way up to 140, or it was going to be 135, 140 catch weight, and they were going to fight each other. This is when Donaire decides to say, "Oh, I would rather fight Gamboa." You see how sneaky Donaire can be? The dude got some tricks under his sleeve. You feel me? See, the whole thing is, why isn't Donaire bringing up Gamboa's name now? He ain't bringing his name up now. Because that shit was just something to throw out. Because he was trying to cover up the fact that he did not want to fight Rigo. He don't want to fight no damn Gamboa. If you ain't gonna fight, if you afraid to fight a Cuban that's naturally smaller than you are, ain't no way you gonna fight one that's naturally bigger than you are. It is what it is. You can say whatever you want to say, but Donaire is not the fighter of the year. This is probably the first time in the history of boxing that I ever disagreed with who they voted for as Fighter of the Year. Like I said earlier, this was a make-up call. This was a desperation call. They just lost their favorite fighter. They had to replace him. Right after Pacquiao gets knocked out, Donaire gets crowned right away. It's boxing politics is what it is. One-on-one. You think if Adrian Broner pulled the shit that Donaire pulled this whole year, in the exact same circumstance, do you think he would have been crowned Fighter of the Year? Absolutely not. You had Sergio Martinez, who had to beat a motherfucker who had a 30-pound weight advantage, came in the goddamn fight as a cruiserweight, and was probably juiced up. Sergio gave him a boxing lesson. He knocked out his last two opponents prior to that. Juan Manuel Marquez. You had a lot of people who could have been Fighter of the Year. Donaire was not Fighter of the Year. Donaire, if you want to be Fighter of the Year, you go out there, you go ahead and you beat Rigo, and then jump up to 126 and beat somebody like Orlando Salido, Gary Russell Jr., all in 1 year, then you are definitely the Fighter of the Year. But no, you don't get that shit fighting two bums that ain't nobody ever heard of, and then you beat Nishioka. Then every time Donaire brings up fighting Guillermo, there's always some little hidden excuse. So you gotta really delve into what he says. You have to really look at every single thing that he says when he brings up Rigo's name, because there's always a little fine print in the comment that basically says, under these stipulations, I'll fight him. I remember right after he beat Arce, he said something like, I'll fight Rigo, but I'm afraid that there's going to be money problems. I'm afraid that, he's going to, Rigo is going to be difficult with the money negotiations and all of this. He ain't never said this shit in his entire career. Now all of a sudden you're afraid that this person is going to try to complicate things. For what, Donaire? So he could try to negotiate his way out of a fight that he's been trying to make for the last 2 years? Come on, Donaire. Doesn't make any sense. Floyd Mayweather was calling out Oscar De La Hoya for fucking 4 or 5 years. And when Floyd finally got an opportunity to take the fight, Oscar De La Hoya took all the money, didn't give Floyd Mayweather any of the pay-per-view shares, and took like 70 to 75% of all the money. But Floyd Mayweather still took the fight. Rigo will be no different, because Rigo has been wanting you since day one. And one more time, guys, I'm not saying Rigo beats Donaire hands down. I'm saying win or lose, this fight needs to happen. May the best man win. And once the contract gets signed, I'll do a breakdown of the fight. But that's what it is right now. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this video to an end. And I'll catch up with you guys later. I'm on to the next one, y'all.